Hi everyone, this is Daria Piano. Welcome back to my channel. I'm continuing with my series Fundamentals of Piano Playing, and today's video is about top 10 bad habits you should avoid as a beginner piano player. Even if you are already an intermediate or even an advanced player, give this video a chance and see, perhaps you have already accidentally developed any of these bad habits, and this will help you detect them and work your way through eliminating them. I put them in separate categories, and we will start with the sitting position. Sitting too low, where your elbows are hanging somewhere here, and you're slouching. Sitting too high, where your elbows are somewhere here. Sitting in such a casual manner like this or like that, and pretty much limiting your piano space somewhat to over here, and doing it like this in a very constricted manner, and forgetting that you have all this space here which you should be using. And last one is sitting too close like this or too far from the keyboard. Second category relates to the hand position. And I'm going to list the ones that I encounter most frequently in my students, be it kids or adults. Number one on that list is low wrist. Just recently I've seen a kid play a very advanced piece in this manner, where his wrist was here. I honestly applauded to him because I don't know how he did it with this low wrist. That's bad, uncomfortable, tension, pain, avoid it. Number two is stiff wrists. What I mean by stiff wrists, somewhere where you don't have any flexibility, you forget this joint can actually move on its own, and it's simply attached to your hand and you're doing something like this. Instead of wrist being flexible and following, or something like this. Especially if you're going long distance, right? This is good. This, not good. Knuckles that are bent inwards, it's called concave. I always have this confusion between concave and convex. Concave is in, like caved in, like this. It could be actually together with low wrist, which is even worse. It's really hard for me to show this because I'm not used to it and it really is not comfortable. Or it could be with the high wrist and even high elbow. So if you notice that you're doing this, please try to go back up. It should be convex instead. Right? Moving on to third category here is fingertips. The worst bad habit for fingertips is, again, that word, concave, going like this, bending inwards. This is one of the habits that is the easiest to develop because your fingertip is generally weak in the beginning and you really need to force it to be curved to make sure that this joint becomes strong. And this is also one of the habits that is hardest to fix later on. I've had students who played like this for 5 or 10 years and they come to me and we try to fix it. It takes, I don't know, a year, maybe more for some. So please try to watch yourself, that make sure that you don't do this. Even flat fingertip is fine. If it's like that, it's okay. I sometimes do it too, especially with the second finger. And usually second finger, for some reason, tends to be the one that has most flexibility. And especially this is an issue for people who are double jointed. So for you guys, you have to pay even more attention to the fact that this joint shouldn't bend this way. Because for me, for example, 4 doesn't even bend that way. But I've seen double jointed people who have a lot of trouble making sure that it's fixated in this position. 4. Pinky. Pinky laying down, doing something like this. And that comes from this joint being too weak and refusing to hold on like this, right? The arch shape, that knuckles being arch shape is the key for your finger strength because it comes from this joint all the way from here, right? So what you need to do is to remind your pinky to stand with the joint being up here, not like this. Because for pinky, it's very easy to rely on the hand and do this. And yeah, he seems to be smaller and weaker in the beginning, but he can be very strong when you develop him, as long as you make sure you're developing this muscle and this joint stays strong and gives support to your finger. Is putting your fingers too close to the edge of the fingerboard, something like this. Again, that could be in a combination with low wrist, even worse. Why is that bad? For many reasons. One, you can simply not hold on strong enough and fall. That's what I tell kids, easiest to explain. More subtle reason is because look what I'm doing with the thumb. If your fingers are here, where's the thumb? Thumb is here. So leaving your thumb hanging, it belongs to that habit too. Meaning your thumb should always be on the white keys, always somewhere here. And that leaves your other fingers closer to the black keys. So every time if you're in this position, you need to play thumb. You need to do this. See that? That's the movement that's extra, not needed, uncomfortable, and they're going to create bumps on the road for you the entire time. If you want to play a scale like this, but if you want to play it smoothly, you're going to have to make sure your thumb is prepared on a white key. Right? Why also it's bad is because you have, again, very bad access to the black keys from here. You, again, will have to do that movement if you're going to F sharp, for example. Especially if you're going between white and black. If you're going to do this, that's just painful, unnecessary, extra movement, extra effort, not needed. Right here. Okay? Putting too much thumb is also bad. That makes him clumsy, hard to maneuver, heavy, loud, and very much sticking out everywhere he plays, and he can't become a part of the group evenly, like in the scale. You're gonna have, if you put him too much, right? Again, doing this is bad. To make him light, you need to make sure only this much comes on the key. In it, he comes on the edge. Because in a natural position, look how your fingers are, closer to the black keys, and this is on the edge.
And one more point about the thumb I forgot earlier is thumb sticking out to the side like this. So when you play, it's sticking out to the side rather than being turned inwards towards other fingers. So if your thumb is like this, make sure you control him and move him inwards.
Moving on to the category in which other related unnecessary movements are included. Raising your shoulders when you play, bad habit. Especially if you're trying to do a difficult exercise for your finger and you're trying to lift your finger, let's say something like this, where you have to hold and the one finger has to move. And one finger is difficult for the four, maybe, and you somehow want to help it by moving your shoulder up. Same thing with elbows. Moving your elbows up instead of your finger doesn't really help. You don't need to move your elbow. Only do the necessary movement to achieve the result you want. If you need to only press the key up and down with your finger, none of this has to move. Catch yourself doing the unnecessary movements and eliminate them as early as you can, early on, so it doesn't become a bad habit. If you're really struggling with the shoulder situation, it's a very silly way, there's a way to help yourself, is to put a backpack, maybe not too heavy, and make sure that something's weighing on your shoulders. And that way you remember about the posture and you remember that your shoulders are down rather than up, okay? With generally any tension or prolonged discomfort caused by unnecessary movements. Again, I'm mentioning it many times because you are not supposed to move anything that is not needed in order to complete the task you need, right? For example, when you need to move this finger, 4, and you notice that the other finger is doing something like this, or when you're playing 2 notes and these fingers are suddenly doing this, they're tense, right? What do you need to do? Drop. Make sure if this finger needs to go, only this finger goes. If these 2 fingers need to go, they go. If these 2 need to go, they go, right? The other fingers don't do anything. The only reason this guy is up is because otherwise if he's down, he presses a note, right? So he's in his natural position down. He's ready, but he's not moving. Next point relates to the previous, and it has to do with forgetting to relax and to relieve the tension, especially when your finger leaves the key. We generally do pay attention about the quality of sound we want, so we think of how we're going to touch the key. But not too often we think about how we're going to release the key. And this is the releasing the key is the key, to relaxation, because that moment of release is the only time you have to actually relieve the tension, right? So thinking of relaxing your hand, your wrist being flexible, breathing with your hands is extremely important thing to remember. And if you find yourself not breathing with your hands, meaning you're just doing this, it also has to do with stiff wrist. But if you're just simply playing anything, if you do it a lot of times and you don't release, what's going to happen? You're going to have tension, you're going to have pain, and you won't be able to play longer. It is not so visible in easy repertoire when you start playing with you have like a few notes per measure, but when you have something very fast, this will lead to quick fatigue and you won't be able to comfortably play long passages. So make sure if this is your bad habit, just release. So even if something like this, release. Even if it's quick, still release. Wrist goes up, fingers go down. Point number 9. It already includes a little terminology here. It has to do with playing legato and holding over the previous note. Legato means connecting one note to the next smoothly without a break, without a separate stroke, like this. At a simple scale, usually we play legato. And what often happens in the beginning is we tend to hold over the previous note. Something like this, right? And we leave too late. Right? That legato is not clean and it's not smooth. You want to make sure that you release the previous note as soon as the next note sounded. This is good legato. And the last point, number 10, that I'm including here has to do with caring about the type of sound that we want to hear and how we are going to produce that sound. It sounds a bit abstract, but this is essential to keep in mind, even as a beginner, when we're just starting to get familiar with how the keyboard, how the piano responds, how each key can be felt and communicated with. But without consciously putting effort into imagining what kind of sound you want, you won't really understand how much effect your touch has on that sound, right? So because if you want to make a loud sound, I need to go like this. If I want to make soft sound, I need to go like this. But this is very simple. If I want a gentle run, or if I want to have a more confident and forward run, like this, right? Or if I want to have something that's more scherzando, more playful, right? So depending on what I want, what sound I want, I will think about it differently and I will approach my touch differently. And for pianists, touch is of paramount importance. Even if you're a novice player, you should already know and keep in mind in the beginning that the way we touch the key will affect the sound tremendously, and only we are in control of that. And developing that good habit of controlling your sound is going to lead you to a very good place with your pianistic technique. Keep it in mind that these things should be avoided. If you can catch it, great. And if you're a beginner, I would recommend putting a list together and maybe each session test yourself. Am I doing any of these things? Check box. If you're not doing, good. If you're doing something, make sure that every session you're paying particular attention to, for example, the pinky today, or the wrist and things like that, because it takes time to relearn these habits if you already developed them. But it is possible to fix them if you are going to consciously put effort in every session you practice. Thank you for watching, guys, and stay tuned for more videos. Bye.